studied poisons and their cures at Melville, and
There's no use. There's no cure for the I poison.
But, Dad, I can...
Don't talk, my son, but listen. There is so much to say and so little time to say it. You learned the tongues of the jungle people?
I've studied them as you ordered, but I'm not too sure of any of them yet.
That will come with practice. Now, there's another thing you must learn. The secrets of magic as practiced by the medicine men.
Magic?
Yes. There's nothing that so sways the native mind as a few simple tricks and illusions. Zuba will teach you. Come, give me a hand, my son. These are the treasures stored through the centuries by your ancestors.
Why, there's a fortune here in jewels and gold.
It's yours now to use against the enemy who is coming to our jungles for some mysterious reason. Now to the tomb of your ancestors.
Stay here, Devil.
Over here, my son. And you solemnly swear before the tombs of your ancestors that you will carry on with a vengeance against all piracy, greed, and cruelty.
I swear it.
This ring is a symbol of the Phantom. Wear it. My son, you are now the ruler and protector of all the people in these jungles.
It all began 400 years ago, when a small boy saw his father savagely murdered by pirates of the Singh Brotherhood. That same boy swore an oath of vengeance to fight piracy, greed, and cruelty in all its forms. And he became the first Phantom. I'm his descendant, Diana, sworn to carry out his oath. The mantle of the Phantom was passed down from father to son. 20 Phantoms came before me, but no one knew that. They all thought it was the same Phantom. They all thought he was immortal. That's why they called him the Ghost Who Walks.
So back in 1987 or 1988,
yeah.
you wrote The Phantom, is that right?
That's right. I worked, it was for DC Comics. It was actually the very first project that I worked on for DC when I became a full-time writer.
And I remember it was a 4-book series?
Yes.
And the DC then went on and did other projects. And I remember when I saw those books originally, the editor of DC Comics was doing the covers. There was Joe Orlando.
Joe Orlando did, well, why not?
He was the publisher, I think.
The chief executive officer of Marvel Comics is Joe Quesada, so, it's certainly a grand tradition. Joe Orlando did the covers. Dave Gibbons did the inks on the covers. As a matter of fact, I happen to have the artwork for the first cover right here.
That's absolutely fantastic. And let me say,
it's actually signed by Lee Falk to Peter Midlove Lee Falk.
I have to say that I always like the line art better than the colored art, and that's a really great cover.
Oh, it is. It's one of my proudest possessions. Yes.
It's got all the things that make the Phantom, iconic in it. I mean, it's got, it's got the ship, obviously where.
Oh, that's what we're going for. I mean, well, one of the things that makes the Phantom iconic, of course, is pirates. I mean, the Phantom owes his entire existence to the pirates who killed his father when he was a kid. So naturally, I felt that if I was going to do a story about the Phantom, I definitely had to have pirates in there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the essential elements in the Phantom. One of the things that I've maintained is that the Phantom is a myth, and that it's important to keep the mythological elements of the Phantom always present in any story that you do.
Absolutely.
In fact, when we discussed this, one of the things that I asked you to do, which I want you to tell everybody about, is instead of making the Phantom into a contemporary character in 2013, I wanted to look at the Phantom in prior years and past years and go back
Yes.
into 40s and the 50s, which they did frequently in the comic strip.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
I feel that the Phantom is very much a character of his time. That the Phantom's real prevalent time is the 30s and 40s. Now, it may have been that the world has shifted around him, and and now things exist in the Phantom's world that did not exist, and certainly time has passed for the Phantom. He's gotten married, he's had children, but time has not passed commensurate with when he was first created. He was created back in the 1930s. We have not had 80 years of real time in the Phantom's comic strip. If we did, Kid Walker would be long gone, and indeed his own kids, who would now be the Phantom, would be having his own child in the hopes of that kid being the Phantom. The fact that we still have Kid Walker as the Phantom indicates that we're just kind of playing fast and loose with time. When I decided, when I opted to write the comic book for you, I decided that I wanted to be pretty nebulous in terms of exactly when it was happening chronologically. I didn't want to go out of my way to contradict the current comic strip, but I didn't want to set it. I didn't want to set it purely in the 1930s. So I kind of walked a fine line. One of the first things that I decided to do was not have any element of the story that takes place in say New York City. I mean, when they did the New York City sequences in the movie,
right, it was the 30s.
It was all very solidly set in the 1930s, in the clothing, in the cars, all that kind of thing. I decided to keep this one entirely set in the jungle. I didn't make reference to computers or anything like that. I tried to keep it more generalized.
Yeah, one of the things that we discussed and one of the things I wanted to do, which you're doing, is to not make it in New York City in 2013.
Right.
Because I don't think that the character adapts itself well into contemporary times. That may be possible for somebody to do, but I don't think the Phantom adapts himself well into a contemporary environment because it cuts into the myth of you have a guy that dies and everybody wants to be invulnerable and super, and that's not part of the Phantom's mythos. In fact, the Phantom says, in various adventures, the fact that he has to die so that he can be succeeded, and that's all part of this myth.
Yes.
Now, you, without giving too much away, one of the things we wanted to do was to focus on classic characters that is in the Phantom and give them an opportunity to make an appearance. So we have some of the classic characters from the original Phantom strip. Without giving too much away, I mean, we have a couple of them. Who would they be?
Without giving too much away.
Without giving too much away, yeah.
The whole thing away.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you exactly who it is, having, written it. Let me put it to you this way. I have the return of two characters who first showed up in the earliest Phantom strips. And I'm talking about the earliest. It's really kind of exciting to be dealing with these characters who have not been seen in some cases in decades, but still hold warm places in the hearts of the longtime Phantom fans, who I think will be very pleased to see them.
Yeah, what's really neat is they're good characters, and they hold up really well.
They do.
And a lot of the characters in the Phantom over its it first came out in 1936. In the history of the Phantom, there are lots of good characters. One of the characters that I really like, which is not a character in this book, not that I'm aware of, is Sala, which is from the Sky Band, and she is in the Phantom, several times. First in one of the dailies, and then in the Sundays, and that's a great character. And you could easily bring Sala back and have a whole adventure with her because at the end of the Sunday strip, the Phantom lets her go.
Absolutely. But no, tragically, Sala is not in this. However, we may see somebody from the Sky Band showing up. What the hell? Why not?
Yeah, what the hell? No, so let me ask you this. I mean, do you have a feeling for, how you deal with this character without disturbing the fact that, there's a mythical history. And it's kind of like I've said to people, if you have the Phantom, you can't erase the myth.
No.
You can't start out and say, it'd be like having Superman and killing off Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen and Perry White just to start with.
Right.
You have to understand that you have to go with the flow and merely tell a good story with what exists. Is that what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the bottom line is it doesn't matter where the Phantom comes from. I mean, even the Phantom's mythos was varied from the beginning. At the very start of the series, the Phantom did not have the origin that he now has. Lee Falk intended to have the Phantom turn out to be a playboy named Jimmy Wells.
Exactly.
Jimmy Wells is running around in the first strip and then without explanation disappears from the comic strip. I suppose that's because at that point Lee Falk came up with his much better concept for what the Phantom should be and what his background should be. So, that was kind of it for Jimmy. But ultimately, my job is to simply tell the best story that I can, one that will appeal not only to longtime fans of the Phantom, but people who have absolutely no freaking idea who he is. Is there anyone who doesn't know who the Phantom is? Sure there are. I mean, there are people who didn't know who Paul McCartney was. So, yeah, there are people who have no idea who the Phantom is. And what I made sure to do was in the very first issue, do exactly what Lee Falk would do periodically, which is have a thing that says, for those who came in late, and go ahead and expound within a few pages on the Phantom's origin, where he came from, and how he came to be the 21st Phantom.